G'day folks, in this video I'll show you how you can solve this 𝙏𝙃𝙈𝙕𝙄𝙈 Master Mixup version 2. And wow, what a difference the introduction of these 2x2 centers makes to the puzzle. On the version 1, these were just all 1x1 blocks, everything was 1x1. The only thing that's changed is the centers. That makes an unbelievable difference, a totally different solving experience. So 𝙏𝙃𝙈 put out version 1 to 7 of these puzzles and then released version 0 afterwards. So I guess there's technically 8 of them. These stickerless puzzles were from a later run, and that's what I have. I used to have a couple of black ones, I sold them off. The stickerless I'm loving because I never have any issues with stickers. I'm going to be taking you through how to scramble this puzzle, because it is tricky, as well as the bandaging on it. So on this version 2, you can see, as I've said, it's the same as version 1. The only difference is the centers are 2x2 blocks. All other pieces are the 1x1 little pieces. So as usual, there are orbits of pieces. And so if I turn this, in fact, that's a great little example. I was going to turn it 30 degrees. I can turn both slices 30 degrees. And you can see that that outer edge there has landed in the wing position. And this little wing has gone over here. And the one that was here is now in this outer edge position. So the outer edges and the wings share the same orbit, and these inner edges share the same orbit as the centers. So it is a 30-degree mix-up, and they are the orbits on this puzzle. So this puzzle is very, very difficult because the centers are all 2x2 blocks. And so we need to find a way to get them out of the way. With this puzzle, because of its structure, we're going to end up reducing it to a mix-up ultimate. Another name for that, or another puzzle released which is the same, is the Super Mix-Up, I believe. And in fact, the 𝙏𝙃𝙈𝙕𝙄𝙈 Master Mix-Up version 0 is the same thing. So any one of those puzzles, that's what we're going to end up reducing this to. And it's all because of these 2x2 block centers. So it takes a while to get a good scramble. And to be frank, it's a monster of a solve. There's a bit of everything. There's stuff that takes a long time to do. I love it, of course. So in terms of scrambling it, the first thing that we want to do, in order to be able to scramble all these little bits, we have to have a turnable middle layer somewhere. We've got none of them at the moment. So we want to just go ahead and put a couple of center blocks on the same big edge. So the way I'll do that is to do something like this. Turn that off. I don't need to turn it down. In fact, I'm probably better off leaving it up. Those two center blocks are now on the same big edge. That's good. Let me try and do that with another two. There's an orange center here. And what I can do is just turn that up temporarily and then turn this blue one across to the center position and then bring the orange one back down. Those two are now right next to each other. So once again, I can turn them off onto a big edge, and they're behaving the same as that one there now. And I can turn this up. So I've got a couple there, and I've still got two more to go. There's the yellow center. Where is the other one? The red one is here. So what I might do is just turn that one down into the middle. Now I do want to turn that red one down. I just don't want to involve this one at the moment. So I'm going to turn that bottom face off so it doesn't involve those centers in any way. And now I should, if I haven't stuffed anything up, have 3 lots of 2 centers on blocks. And as soon as I've done that, look what happens. I can have a very nice, easily turnable middle layer. And that's kind of going to be my middle layer for now. So what I want to do in order to scramble as easily as possible is to place those 3 big edges that I just made on down left, down right, and up right to begin with. So there's one on up right, there's one on down left, and the other one I'd like it to be here. So I'll do something like, and you'll see exactly why I'm doing this in a tick. Where'd the other one go? Oh, there we go. So essentially all I need is to have them, whether that's down left and down right, up right, or it's over here, or it's like that, I want to have them in that position. And I want to basically keep them there. And the reason for that is the way I'm going to scramble it is just to do something like move something across. I'll just say move that blue one across. As soon as I've done that, I can turn this middle layer, and I want to keep these center blocks well out of the way. So all I'm ever going to turn is outer faces 180 degrees or these middle slices 180 degrees. And the way I'm going to scramble is just to continue moving across these things in the middle layer. And yep, that one needs doing. Perhaps something on the bottom layer, I can move that one across as well. And as long as I have these center blocks in that position, I'm not going to have to worry about things. Now, if I turn it across, let's say I turn it across like this, and I'll put that piece there, and I want to scramble, you can see straight away I can't turn that middle layer, and that's not what I want. And that is why I want to keep them basically in that position. So if I turn this upper middle layer across 30 degrees, and this rotates 30, I want to put it back so I can do some good scrambling. So this on its own takes a fair while to do, and it's just a matter of persisting. You might be saying, what about the edges up the top here? Yes, good point, and we will certainly get to them, just not yet. Probably the trickiest part at the moment is going to be orienting things and keeping things oriented. So I will just continue doing this, checking that my blocks are where they should be. And as I do this, I can separate outer edges from inner edges by doing something like that. And then you can see here an outer edge and an inner edge. So I would probably turn that across, this one across as well. And I can do things like that. Now I could, of course, move around here, but I find it much, much easier just to keep a nice fixed area. Now you can see that I'm getting close to these big edges being nicely scrambled. And so I'm just going to keep going. In fact, that one in there is nearly done. I'm going to get rid of these blue bits here. So the top part of that is scrambled. Let's see if I can find the bottom part of one as well. That one looks pretty good. I've just broken my rule. I said I kept it in that position. As long as I have the big edges out of the way, that's really what matters. And just got to align that. There we go. Get that white one off. Now that should give me the ability to make two, or an upper and a lower part of a big edge, which is completely scrambled. There's the other bit, I think. Anyway, I'm going to put them on top of each other, and I nearly had a winner. You can see those blue bits have just matched up there. So I might just get them dealt with. Get rid of that blue one. And see if I can get a properly scrambled big edge. Yes, I have one. Okay, so don't worry about those two oranges. They are definitely scrambled. So you can see all the pieces here on that big edge are completely scrambled. And what I want to do as soon as I've got one of them is just put it up the top, replace it with something that's not. So I could replace it with this one or this one, doesn't matter. And I'll turn it up, put the next one on, and turn it back down and continue on my merry way. And I need to keep doing that until every single one of these big edge blocks, I suppose, or the big edges are completely and utterly scrambled. I will keep doing that. Well, when you've got pretty much all of those edges done, you just want to check that the center position doesn't have pieces that are scrambled. If it does have pieces that are scrambled, you would just turn them down to the middle layer like that and continue scrambling them. Mine are scrambled, so that's good. So I'm going to go to the next little section, which is now, you remember when we placed the big edges at the beginning, we by default had to have unscrambled pieces surrounding them. So we now want to go and fix that. So for example, I'm just going to bring one of these edges down. Let's Let's just get this properly aligned. That is one of the tricky things of the puzzle in this stage, is just having everything aligned. When you have the outer edges in their position, you can grip everything really, really well. When it's like this, it's not quite so easy. So I'm going to bring that one down, and I notice that the other ones come up. So for now, I'm not trying to keep that original structure. I just want to have one there, and I'll turn it across into the center position and just get that one out the way and just replace it with something else. I'll turn this across here and perhaps replace this side with something else. And what I can then do is, in fact, I just want to kind of separate these to get at that one. So what I'll do initially is turn that up to there and bring this, perhaps bring this across and replace that one in the middle layer. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. It's just a matter of getting the center squares surrounded by bits that are not scrambled. So that's good, that's good. Where was the other part of it? Well, it should be one center somewhere. Where am I missing here? There's the green, that's the red, yellow, the blue, orange. The white center, it's in the center position as well. So I'll just move that up to that upper layer. Bring it around so we can see how we're going. Yep, and probably just turn that across to there for now. Bring that down into position. And so what I'm going to now do is I've got to get rid of those green. I'm going to bring this one up and then place it next to that green, and it'll have its scrambled bits. So now that that's done, and remember this is still just scrambling these things, I've now got those edges with scrambled bits around them. I can turn that up to the top and I can replace it with another one and go ahead and do the same thing with that one. Don't really want to involve those, so let's just checking that other centers don't come into it. That's good. And on this side, I can get that one done. This is probably a little bit more efficient than the first one I did. Okay, that's good. That's now able to be placed up the top as well, or the bottom, and get the final one. Now the final one, there's the first one I did. The final one, I've separated those edges anyway. That's really no big deal. So what I'll do is bring that yellow one down. That's kind of good in a way. And put that, in fact, I'll replace it with this one for now. And I can turn this across to the center position. Now it's the yellow that I'm working with, so I'll bring that yellow down first of all. In fact, I probably don't need the 4 turns, I don't think. And I've also got that scrambled bit there. That looks very good. Now, let's just check. Do I still have the other 2? Yes, they're good. Yes, they're good. Wunderbar. So I'll just turn that up to the top, and now I've got this splittable, turnable middle layer again. Okay, so I guess the last little bit of the scrambling is just to do some rotation if you feel it's necessary. And what I mean by that is these parts in the center, you can see they've already been rotated to a degree. The green is pointing sort of that way, whereas the white is pointing that way. So you could just look around and go, look, if I think it's necessary, then I potentially, put something here and just turn this face like so. That rotates these pieces, then it can be moved on, something else can be put in its place, and you can keep doing that. In general, I don't tend to think that it's necessary. I look at these things and go, you know what, they all look pretty scrambled, and as far as I can see, maybe those bits there are the only bits that belong together, so I might even give that a whirl at fixing that. right now. And if you see something like that and you're not happy with it, then just bring it down. Make sure you've got a middle layer that is turnable. So that's just a case of getting these large edges off things. Of course, aligning what you need. Okay, let's try that. Does that give me a turnable middle layer? It does, and those blue bits there, I can now just get them separated. Of course, I still have to deal with these centers. And so if I do miss one or one comes back when it was already scrambled, I do have to set the centers up like that, just so I can do a bit of scrambling there. So that's now been scrambled. Having a quick look around, I'm not sure there's anything else I'd potentially worry about. There's a couple of green pieces here, but does that really matter? Probably not. And so once you're at that point, well, then it's just time for the last few 90-degree turns with 30s, so you can do some turning of the center blocks and just separate the centers. So I might put a center in there and turn that one off, do another turn, get another big edge with centers on, and turn it across to the center. That's better. And of course, you've been scrambling so long at this point that you probably get to the point of just going, hey, it's enough. But now it's just 30s, 90s, whatever. Obviously, there's no middle layer at this point. You're not looking for a splittable middle layer. You're just looking to be able to do whatever turns you want to get the thing scrambled to your heart's content. Well, that's where I am now. My heart is content. That is scrambled, and that tells us that we're ready to move on to the solve. Well, the first thing that I want to do, in order to get the scramble done, I had to deal with these centers first, and that's kind of the first thing that I want to do with the solve. I'm going to deal with the centers. And what I'm going to do, instead of placing all of them on blocks, I'm going to begin by placing a white and a yellow center, and that's going to stay there for most of the solve. So there's a white center. I'll just move that into a center position. I'll go and locate the yellow, which is here. That needs to go on the opposite face. Okay, so there we are. So I'll then say, well, that's got to move up to here. If I simply turn it up, you can see it pushes the white center out from where it was meant to be. So that's no good. So what I need to do instead is turn it off to a side face. Now this was 2 moves down, in other words 60 degrees down. So I want to now turn that center position 1, 2 moves down, then put that yellow center onto that position and return. When I do that, those 2 centers will be exactly opposite. That's what I need. So those white and yellow center there are placed. Now that does 2 things. One is it gives me a middle layer, and that's going to now be my middle layer. But 2, it means I only have to kind of take care of 4 centers now rather than 6. So what I want to do is essentially just put the centers on the top or bottom. So I would say, look, I'm going to turn that red center to the top. That puts the green center there. So I'll turn that to the top as well, because I'm really just looking for a turnable middle layer. So they must all be in their place. Now, I want to put the centers, 2 centers into here between or separated by a correct outer edge pair and the correct wing pairs. So in other words, I want to have a fully reduced big edge apart from the centers. So the way I do that is I just look for 2 of these outer edges. Now I happen to have 2 in the middle layer. If I don't, I can bring one down from the top or bottom, but I've got the red whites here. So I would say, right, let's get those 2 matched together, and I want to put them into this position right next to the center here. And what I'll do is just bring them up to the top layer and replace it with one of the center pieces. So the color does not matter. Once I've done that, I've only got one center down here. I want to put that into that center position and bring back those outer edges that I just paired. I'll stress again, I happen to have got a red center here. It is not essential to get a red center. It's not going to be there in the end. So I've done that. I'll then turn this across to the other face and store this up the top and put another center in its place. So perhaps this green center can come down here. And the turning is still a little bit dodgy at the moment because of the fact that everything's everywhere. It definitely improves, I can guarantee that. Okay, so the green center is in the middle. I'm now going to put the outer edge pair so it's between these two centers. Right, now let's store that up the top. And remember, how am I defining top? Well, that's what I did the yellow and the white centers there for. Okay, so I've got that there. I now look at that outer pair and say, well, it's red, white. So in the middle layer, I want to construct myself a pair of red wings and a pair of white wings. So let's see if we can find some reds first. There's a red wing. It looks potentially like there's one hiding in there. Just turn that. Yes, not only is there one hiding, but it is one that matches that nicely. Now, you'll see that these two red wings match together, so they pair together nicely. And they are raised. Now, I don't know how clear that is, but they are definitely raised there. If I turn them across to the other side, do a 30-degree turn, those red wings are now flat. So what I want is for them to be raised. So that's how you get them to change their orientation. Just turn them 30 degrees. So I've got them there now. Now what I want to do is store these red wings up the top somewhere, or the bottom. Top or bottom doesn't matter. I'll just put them up there, replace that with something else. In the same way, I want to make a set of white wings. So let's see if I can find some. There's one white wing. There's another there. Now that one is not a match for the bottom one. So I'll keep turning. Ah, there we go. I do have a match there. And again, those wings are raised. So I've got two raised white wings. Now I want to store them up the top, but this time I'm going to replace them with this piece. Okay. Now, the white-red outer edge, I now move across to be right next to the center. It happens to be white that is sitting next to the center, so that tells me I want to place my white wings in the position here. So I'll just turn that up, put them on, and put them down. I also have a set of red wings up there, so what I do now is turn them across and put the red wings in that position. And when I turn this into its true edge position, what we'll see is that apart from the center pieces, this is a nicely reduced edge. Awesome. That's one. Now remember, I only have to do two of these because I placed the white and yellow centers there to begin with. So perhaps now I'll just turn that to the bottom. Make sure my middle layer is still turnable. No, it's not because I've put an edge or a center here, I should say. So let's just put that up the top. There, turnable middle layer. Let's now go and find another outer edge pair. Are there two pieces in the middle that will work? Orange blues. Yes, there are. So bring those orange blues together. In the same way, I'll bring that up and put a center in its place. So there's a center over here. I'll bring those up to the top layer, put the orange center down there. And again, I shouldn't do this because it's orange matching with orange. Maybe I'll do a different center. Maybe I shall do the blue center instead. I'm probably happy with that. So just move that one across, just so that there's no thought that it has to be a color match with the center and the outer edge. Okay, so the blue center's there. Let's put that into the center position and let's attach the orange blue outer edge. That's done. turn it across to the other side. Now the final center that I'm dealing with will be this orange one. So again, I want to put that up there, replace it with the orange. What did I do? Okay, don't know exactly how that happened. Let's just fix the orange and the yellow. That's pretty important that I keep them where they should be. Let's just check that. Okay, so the white and the yellow center have come out again. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, and that is to turn that off. In fact, can I do it so I don't break this? I'm going to put that white center in its position, so that is the proper edge. Let's come up here and deal with this yellow center. That's better because I won't break something I've already done. Turn it off. Turn the center position down one turn. Put it back on. Put it back on. Okay, white and yellow centers are back. Yep, that happens sometimes. It's not a huge deal, as you can see. Now let's see what I've got to redo, if anything. I've got the red-white edge here, which has lost a pair of white wings. Those white wings are there, so I'm just firstly going to put them back. Okay, they're in position. That's good. I've got the orange blue with that blue center, so I'm happy about that. So let's firstly, those are now stored up the top. What's in the middle? Nothing. Okay, good. We're back to where we were. I had one outer edge, which was this one here. Okay, this one here was sort of stored and ready. And what I needed to do was get the other center. So first thing, I'm going to get that other center. In fact, first thing, you're right, first thing, I want to get this edge down to the middle layer. And I want to get it properly positioned so that it's right next to that center. Now I can replace with this orange center. Okay, and we'll turn the orange center across. There it is. That's what I want to attach. I'll do that, put it into the edge position. Okay, a couple of minutes of fix up there, but life goes on. Now I've got, that's done. This needs to be done. So it's blue-orange, so I'm looking for a pair of blue raised wings and a pair of orange raised rings. There's an orange, I think. Yes, let's see if I've got another orange. That is another orange, and so is that one. Let's see if those two match. No. Those two do match, and they are raised in that position. If I can just get them. Here we go. Raised in that position. Let's turn them up to the top layer and replace with something else. It is a little bit frustrating with all these cubes with lots of little pieces while you haven't got the outer edges in. It will become much, much better. Okay, orange raised. The other thing is blue raised. There's one. Do I have another one? No, I don't have another one. So I'm going to take another one. Perhaps I can see one sitting on that edge. In fact, there's two sitting on that edge, so that's probably a good one to bring up here. And I'll do 4 turns so that I keep that first blue wing there. Good, okay. So that's made a match of those two. So I'm now ready to put them up the top and replace them with my orange blue. Okay, so we now turn the blue across to the center and put the blue wings on. Then turn the orange across to the center. Put the orange wings on. Turn into the true position, and that is the second of our big edges dealt with. And I can sort of store it. Here you can see those two are now done and dusted. And because the white and yellow centers are in place, that is, all 6 of the edges have been dealt with. Well, that leads to the next stage of the solve, which is to be reducing inner edges. In other words, making pairs of inner edges. And what I'm going to do here is just use this middle layer again. And I'm going to just look for anything which is pointing up or down. For example, that little white piece there and the orange piece are both pointing up or down. One that is not is this yellow piece that is pointing horizontally. So if a piece is pointing horizontally and I want to use it, I'll need to rotate the center. And I can do that very simply, just like that. That yellow piece is now pointing horizontally. Now what I would tend to do myself is to do all one color first, then do all the next color, work through the colors. It makes it much easier to see what's been done. So for example here, I can see there's a white piece, a small white piece that is pointing upwards in the lower right position. There's a large white piece right here. Now if I turn that across, what I've now done is paired a tall with a small. Now that's great, but if I turn it at the moment, it's not going to stay paired. So I therefore need to rotate that face. And before I do that, I take that edge out of the equation so I can just easily turn the face. That white pair is now made. That's the first of 8 white pairs that I need to do. You can see that there's going to be a fair few of these things. So I would do that. I would then say, well, let's just turn this one in. I've got a large white pointing up. This small white, in fact, is the one that will rotate around and belong there, but it's a bit tricky to get that at the moment. So I'll just see if I can get another small white. And I can. There's a small white sitting over here. So I'll turn that across into its position. That's now a pair that's been made. It needs to be stored. So I turn the face, and that's now my second white. And you can see the first one, when I find it, there it is, does not get damaged. So as long as every time I make something, if I turn a face, it's going to be unmade. So I don't want to turn that face, or I want to move it off. Now, what do you do if you don't have pieces that are correctly oriented? In fact, what I'll probably do is just continue working through all these whites, because it'll no doubt show pretty much everything we need to worry about. Okay, there is another one. That's a pair that's made. Now I want to turn this face around, but I don't want to involve this piece, so turn it like that. That's a third white. Now, if I turn that off, I can put anything else I like there. And I'll see this little white piece here needs to be rotated in order to match. So now that there's no other white made pieces on there, I can do that. That's now ready. That's a large piece. We'll see if I've got a small piece somewhere. I think that small piece is a piece on the right. I can bring that large piece over to it. In fact, no, it's not. It's a piece on the left. Now I thought, yes, okay. So what I'm going yes, okay, and etc. for is this little piece here is a small piece that's on the lower left. Over here, I have a large piece that's on the lower right. I need that to be up here. So to do that, I will simply rotate that face. And now I can turn that across to match with that one. And I'll move it into the center and rotate the face. I think that's 4 of the whites done. Yeah. Got this one here, but this one here needs to be rotated in order to match with something. So I'll just put anything else on there that I don't care about. Rotate the face. Now, if I wanted to, you'll notice that this has some white pieces, particularly that one there. It's in the upper right. That doesn't match with that, so it doesn't matter, but I could just turn it off for now if it bothered me. But it doesn't, so that's fine. What else have we got? That one there, I think, is going to match. Or is it? Let's have a look. I've got a small piece on the lower left. That's going to be the upper right, so I'll ignore that one. Let's move this one into the middle and rotate it. And remember, all I care about at the moment is the white pieces. So anything else, blue, red, whatever, it makes no difference to me at this point in time. Now that, let's take stock of what we've got. We've got a small piece on the lower left. We have got, okay, a large piece on the lower right here. I'm going to rotate this face around, which will then enable me to match the large piece with the small piece. There's another pair. So that can now be turned. Now that could be 5, I'm not sure. Let's have a quick count. 1, 2, 3. I think that was the first one. 4, 5. Yep, it is 5. So there's 3 to go. As I said, I'll do all the white ones and then cut back in nearer to the end. There's some white ones sitting up in edges on their own. So I can see here that one needs to be rotated. So let's take it off, and that very, very helpfully puts another one that also needs to be rotated with it. So I can do that. Let's see if I've got something that can, that looks good. I'm happy with that because I want to rotate that piece. Have to move the center edge off. Okay. I thought that should get at least one piece. And you can see that's going to be my 6th, all being well. And what I mean by that is sometimes you kind of muck something up unintentionally. And hopefully I won't do that here. That's got to be rotated. And that is, yep, that's good. Okay, so got one here that I can turn around. Put that one on it. This should be number 7. Nothing in the way. Now, if that is number 7, there should only be 2 white pieces floating around, still to be dealt with. Can't see any in that top layer. These are wings, of course, so I'm not looking at them. Can't see any in the middle, so let's have a look at this layer. 1 there. And is that one? No, that's part of a done one. Okay, well there's definitely not going to be one, so I've got another piece somewhere that's floating that I haven't been able to find yet. Where is it? I have no idea, it's vanished. So what I'll do is firstly get this one piece down to the middle layer, because that's where it has to be. Oh, it was on the exact same edge. There are 2 of them on the same edge. Okay. Now, they're probably not oriented, so that one is, let's have a look at the other one. The other one is, oh, it is. Look at that. That's all I needed to do there, so that's pretty good. Again, just get that bottom edge out of the way, and I can now rotate the face, and I now have, particularly if I move this off to not disturb it, all 8 of these white inner edges paired. That is what I'm going for every single one of them. Now what you do is, I mean, I would go for the yellows next. I just go white, yellow, red, orange, green, blue. So I'd go for the yellows next and do exactly the same thing. And the only thing you've got to watch for is when you're rotating a piece. So if I rotate this yellow piece here, I don't want to have, for example, if I rotate the piece with that white on it, as soon as I do that, that is going to separate those two white bits. So the only thing I want to check is, okay, no white pieces on here. Anything else I can have, blue, green, red, whatever. Go and rotate. Of course, get that one out of the way. Rotate the face. That's got a yellow piece there. I would go and look at this one. There's a yellow piece sitting there that also needs to be rotated. But again, it's not got any whites, so that's perfectly good to do. Here's one that's done. That's one that's done. This one needs rotating, so I'll just move that across, rotate, etc. Start matching. Is that a match? No. There may be another match, I'm not sure. Probably not yet. Match and rotate, however you want to do it. You continue, and when you get to the reds, of course, you don't want to involve yellows and whites. So I will continue working through all them and come back in when I'm down to the blues. Okay, well, I'm just down to the last pair of my greens. I've got one here and the other one here. And so this one is definitely pointing the correct way. This green over here, I don't think so. So I'm first going to turn it into the center. It's not. And I'm going to just turn something else around until there's some blues sitting with it. And now I can go ahead and rotate. So that green is now pointing correctly. And the other green, wherever that's gone, it might be up the top now. Or the bottom, there it is. So at this stage, I don't generally just sort of turn things back, although I probably could. I normally will put them up with 4 moves, that sort of thing, because I get a little bit paranoid about the centers being changed. So now that I've done that, I can move that across to match with its piece. That's the last green to deal with, so just check that there's none there. That's good. Turn it off. Okay, so all being well, that should be every color is now paired apart from the blue. And I'm just looking around having a final check. And that's exactly what it looks like to me. Okay, so it's pretty standard. You'll have one blue done probably just by luck. So we want to continue doing exactly the same thing here using the middle layer. And I've got a small blue there. Looks like that's a big one on the right, or is it a small? No, it's a small because it's matched, so that's fine. There's not many other smalls sitting in here, so let's see if I can just get one match. None of them. So I've got 2 here, and what I would probably do would be to turn them around and then bring them across and just try and get one match. There we go. There's one match. I'm happy with that. And I can now turn that face. Now, here's 2. Here's another 2 that haven't been done. So I'll put these on the top layer by doing that. And then this will turn off and they'll match with these ones. And hopefully get a match, but no, so they don't. Have I got any others in the middle layer at the moment? I do have a couple here. That's probably worth bringing around as well. No, I don't have a match with those 2. So I would then try a match with this one and this one, which means turning that to the bottom layer, bringing this around. And it looks like neither of them have matches, which is, oh well, that's what it is. So at this point, I'd probably go, let's get some more blues into the middle layer. So I'll see there is a set there which could come down. I want to replace something that doesn't have blues. So here's something that doesn't have blues. So I'll bring that down into that slot. So every edge now has a pair of blues that needs to be made, does it? No, I've got blues here, but they've been made. So let's try and replace them with a set of blues that hasn't been made. There's that one, and is there one more set? That's been made, so if there is another one up here, I'll take it for sure. Doesn't look like there's any there. Okay, maybe that's it. So now I've got a here. I should be able to get a match somehow from somewhere. There we go. Because for the first few, that's really all I'm doing. It's just trying to do really simple turns to match them. That's good to go. Let's turn that. These two on the bottom. Got two on the bottom, and I've got, yeah, so what I'll do is turn those two around 180. Bring them there, see if I get any joy. No, I don't, but they're 4 pieces that I know need to be dealt with. Let's see what's what. I've got another 2 up here. So I'm going to put these 2 down into this position. Again, paranoia, just doing the full 4 turns here. Just trying to see if I've got any others floating around. That may be it. So let's see, we'll keep going. I've now got to turn those 2 there. No joy with those 2, so let's try with this top pair and that top pair there. So the way I can do that is to turn this one around to the bottom layer. And then bring that top one along, and yep, we've got a couple of matches there, which is great. So I just need to actually turn the face. So that can't be the end of it because I've got at least a couple to go. So there's one here in the top layer and there's one here. So let's firstly get this down to the top, or to the middle layer. So both of my pieces are in the middle. We'll bring them together and we'll see what happens. So you can see with these last 2, and this is very, very standard, with the last 2, there's no obvious, it doesn't come together easily. I mean, it can, the last 2 can just automatically be made, but it's not very likely. I've got 2 sort of pointing here, I've got 2 pointing here. What do I do? Well, what I want to just try and do is do some sort of matching between this set and a blue set on an adjacent face. So to get a blue set on an adjacent face, the easiest way is to get, let's say I want to get 2 pieces here. I've got one there. I'd like to get another piece over here, or possibly here, and then bring them together. So it looks to me like the easiest way would be to bring this piece across to here and turn it to that layer first of all. So I'll do that, bring that piece onto this face, turn it to this layer, and return that. Okay, there's the pieces I'm trying to fix. And I had that one there. I've also now got this one here. So I'm going to use this one to push this out, turn the face, bring them back. Now what I really want is 2 matching pairs. So in order to have that, I've got to see this one's pointing upwards. It may not be instantly possible, but we'll give it a go. There's 2 matching pairs like that. However, I've pushed the other 2 out here. You bring those closer. That's pointing, no, so still all I'm trying to do is get a couple of matching pairs pointing the same direction on an adjacent face. I might have to look at getting this one up onto this face, which is no big deal. So there, let's turn and we'll see if that allows me. It is going to, because yeah, pointing upwards like that. So first thing, I'll get this and this one. Let's see if I can get those 2 matching. No, so we'll keep going, and that's going to push that one out. That'll come back in. This one should be the one that I want. There we go. Got there in the end. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. I've got 2 proper pairs and they're pointing the same way. And the reason I need that, I'm working in the middle layer, of course. The reason I need that is what I'm trying to do here is get a match of one of these pieces using some of these. So there's a whole bunch of different scenarios, but they essentially come down to doing matches with things. So if I first turn that face, yes, still got a turnable middle layer. You can see here I've got two smalls pointing towards each other and two talls pointing towards each other. I'm just going to concentrate on these two small pieces first of all. And the one pointing upwards on the upper left here, it's pointing upwards. So I want to turn it up here and match it to the correct piece. In order to do that, I'm going to have to turn the face like so and bring it up to match there. Now you can see that has come in the way. So let's just get that out of the way. Okay, so I want to bring this little piece up and match it with that one. And you can see I've made a match of a proper pair there. I'm now going to turn that proper pair and bring it back. Now, I want to do the same thing for the little piece that's kind of hidden in there. It's the other small piece and it's pointing upwards that way. So that means what I'm going to do is, let's have a look. I'm going to turn this so that I've got a piece sitting here which will correctly match it. And I'm going to bring that up. There's another proper pair that I've made. Turn that around and return it. Now, if you think about the two things that we've now got, back here I've got two proper pairs that I've just made. Over here, I've got one proper pair sitting there, plus now only two pieces to do. So the matching will generally take you from, if you have four pieces to match, it'll take you to two pieces. So now I've got a good opportunity to show you what we do with this one. So here we are with, this time I'm calling this an adjacent tall, and in fact that's the proper pair. It's a tall and a small, but they're pointing parallel. So this is slightly different. I still need to use this full pair. Now clearly these two pieces here are the ones that I'm trying to match. This is the proper pair at the bottom, so I don't want to deal with that. I want to get these two little pieces matched with something up here. Now this time when I turn, let's have a look at this little piece on the upper left. I'm going to turn that up here. There's no way that I can make a proper pair with that because it is pointing in the wrong direction. It would need to be pointing that way, but it's not. So what I do instead is say this is a small piece. I'm going to match it up here with a small piece. So this is the correct orientation for this made center. So that I turn this up, match it with that small piece. I'm going to then rotate the face and bring it back. Don't panic about that. I'm now going to do the same thing with this tall. Now this tall needs to come up and match with a tall piece here. Now I've got two options because I could turn the face like this and there is a tall, or I could turn the face like this and there is a tall sitting there as well. Well, what I'm going to do is turn it the 180 degrees because I've got a proper pair sitting there on the right and I'd like to keep that. So I then push that out. There's my second match of my two talls. Rotate the face and bring it back. And you can see that is the proper pair that I kept. That's another proper pair. What's going down on this face? Oh, look at that. Done. And so those two talls have matched with two talls, with two smalls. Now clearly that means all I need to do now is rotate that face and I now have the last two of the blue pieces. Everything else is still done. So all I'm doing here is matching with blues. So that was a case where I had a tall and a small next to each other and pointing parallel. They're both pointing the same direction. I want to show you one other case, and that is when I have, let's say, it's either two small pieces or two tall pieces, and they're pointing towards each other this way, and that's the only thing that's wrong. And that's a fairly common thing as well. So let me set up for that now. Okay, and here we are with exactly the situation I was talking about. What we've got is everything else, all other blues are done. The only thing on this last one, we've got two tall pieces correctly matched next to each other, if you like. They're not a proper pair, but they're both tall pieces. They're both pointing in the same direction. Then I've got two small pieces sitting here. and they are not pointing in that same direction. Otherwise, there'd be two proper pairs here. So what I've got is one small pointing up that way, the other small pointing that way. So I call this two adjacent smalls. And I want to do precisely the same kind of thing that I did earlier, the very first one of these that I saw. So I say there's a small pointing up here. I want to match it to something using this piece here. So if that is a small pointing upwards, it's got to have that piece there in the upper right ready to match with. So I put that there. I bring it up to make my first proper pair, rotate the face and turn it back. That's my proper pair. Now I've got the other small. Now I've got two options here to match this other small with a tool. I could turn it 90 degrees and it would turn up and match. And you may think, oh, that's good, let's push out a proper pair. But as it happens, you've got to turn it 180. If you just turn it the 90 and push out that proper pair, you'll get to a different case. So you want to turn it 180 degrees here. We're going to push out these two smalls. We match that with its tool piece, turn and return. And the reason that works is because once I match it, push out those two smalls, the thing that is left is two tools sitting here. So I now have the two proper pairs made here and the two proper pairs made here. So these are correctly oriented. These ones just need to be turned like that. And now all of these inner edges are paired and they now behave as single inner edge pieces. So it's quite a long stage of the solve, and there's just that little bit of thinking through some matching at the end, but that is the inner edge pairs made. Well, the next stage of the solve is to place outer edges into outer edge positions. So this is an outer edge and outer edge position. Now I've done 1, 2 with these big edges, so I've got 10 to go, and I don't care about matching. All I care about is getting two together and storing them. So for example, if I just turn those two together there, what I want is two outer edges in this position and wings over here. So I want no outer edges here. So that is ready to be stored. So let's move it up the top and replace it with something else. And I keep doing that. Here's another one that is ready to be stored. So I can put this to replace that one there. So that's 4 done. I'll now call that the bottom face just to make it easier. Have I got any more just already done? That's on its own, which is good. That one's on its own, so I can turn those two around and they will match. They are now ready to be stored in my new top layer. And that's what I keep doing, find pieces that are on their own and try and match them. So there's definitely one that's on its own. This looks like another one. I'll bring them together. Yep, there's another one. So that's 5, 6. So I've got to do the last two here and then the 4 in the middle. So these first 8 or so are pretty straightforward. Got a couple here that are matched, but they've got this thing surrounding them. So just want to take you through a few techniques, if I can. One thing that I can do is just, let's say, turn this one to the middle layer, and depending on what is over here, if this one is in the wing position, I can give that a twist and turn it back to that outer edge position. Now, unfortunately, that is in the way, but what I can also do is just see there's one on its own there, and this one is on its own. So I can turn that around, there's another pair. Okay, so let's keep doing that. That's 2 on its own. There, sorry, well, 2 together. There's 1 on its own. Oh, and that is 1 on its own as well. So let's get that one. And the other one, was it on the top layer? It was. Okay. And that is going to be my 8th. And normally, they're that sort of thing. not too involved. And you can see that I've got 4 here, which are correctly stored, the 2 there and the other 2. Now I've got no space to store stuff, so I have to do my work on the middle layer. And so you can also use these techniques if that last one's becoming a bit annoying. So a few techniques here. The first thing, I would just try and turn initially and see what's the best option for getting some pairs straight away. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row here. I've got these 2 done. Let's just say these 2 are done. So I've got a pair correctly placed and I've got another pair in the wing position on that same edge. So here's what I was showing before. This should work beautifully because there's going to be nothing in here to block it. So I turn the wing position across to the adjacent edge and I do a 180 and then I return. That stays in its position. That has also gone into position. Now, don't worry about the fact that that's there because we're going to get that off in a minute. That is in position and that's what I want. So I might for now just bring them together. Those 2 are in position. Now, what else can I do? The next sort of technique that I want to look at is see, are there 2 pieces? I may not be able to look at this, but you know what? I'm just going to quickly set up for it, I think, because it'll be good to show. So, yeah, give me a minute here. I'll put this across to this one initially. Here I'm showing if you've got an outer edge in an outer edge position and another outer edge in an outer edge position on an adjacent, or it doesn't even need to be adjacent, it could be across the back there, doesn't matter where it is. What you can do is turn one and push out the other. So let's turn that one and push out the other. I'm now going to flip this whole big edge. So to flip it, I bring it up the top like that, and then bring it down this direction. So what has happened there, remember when I turned that, I turned the upper layer, if I remember correctly, was it the upper layer or the lower layer? I actually cannot remember, and I'm just looking. Oh, that's what I did. I turned one whole thing. So let's turn that whole thing back. Now, I don't know exactly which one it was, but what happened is the piece that was here, so it was over here, it turned across to there. When I flipped this big edge, it went down to the bottom. And so then that top piece that I'd pushed out came back to the top, and that got two into position. So you turn it back. The others that you've already done are still there. So that's one technique. And this last lot is a great example of what often happens. So you'll have two pieces left to do. You probably have a spare slot here. So the first thing that I'll do is I want to get one of the pieces onto the spare slot. So let's say I want to get this one over to there. The first thing, flip the whole big edge to put this piece into that position, because obviously anything up the top left goes to the bottom right. And there it is. So to get it onto that edge, I turn that bottom slice and now flip this big edge. Where's it going to go? Up to here. Well, remember I turned the bottom edge so it won't affect it once it's up on the top. Okay, so I'll turn the bottom edge back, which brings these ones back to where they belong. Okay, so now I've got one piece here and I've got another piece sitting on a made edge. Well, the first thing that I want to do is get this over next to this edge. So I'll just flip this entire big edge. There we go. Now this one is close to here. Now the thing that I want to do in order to pair these last two pieces is to have this and this in the same position on different edges. So if this is on the upper left, this one needs to get to the upper left. So the question is, how can I do it? I can't simply flip this big edge because it'll just take it back and forth between those two positions. So in order to get to the upper edge, I've got to get it first to here. Well, in order to get it to here, I'm going to need to have it in the middle. somewhere. So let's firstly take this piece, put it in the middle, and then flip the big edge. Now what I don't want is this other piece in the way. So temporarily, I'll just turn that off, store it at the back there. Now, you can see that a wing has come into the place instead. That's fine. I've pushed that across to the middle or to the outer edge position. I'm now going to flip this whole big edge. Got there. Okay, that's flipped, and then I'll bring the upper layer back. So now what I've got is this in the middle position here. Now let's leave this one over here for now. In fact, before I do that, I'll bring it back to remind us where we're trying to get this one to go. We're trying to get it to go to here so that it's in the corresponding position. In order to get it to there, I first need it to be over in that position there. So what that means is that I can just move that bottom layer, not the whole two, just the bottom one, and now flip that whole big edge. Okay, that's been done. Now I move the bottom layer, so I want to move the bottom layer back to put all the others back. And now I've got these two set up so that they are in the corresponding positions. Once you've got to that point, here's the way to finish this whole thing off. Use this one to push this one out. So the one that's right next to it, that's what goes across. And you'll never guess what we do. We flip the big edge. And then return the top. When I have a look over here, I've now got two pieces together in the wing position. Now there's nothing else on that edge, and this is a really simple thing to finish off now. And all we do is, if two pieces are in the wing position, I want them to get to the outer edge position. I'll just push one of them to the outer edge position and flip the big edge. That's done. Return that middle or upper layer back, and those two have now gone from here to here. You'll notice that the other three lots are all where they should be. So that is every technique that you will possibly need to get those last lots of edges into those positions. There is no point correctly pairing them at all, so I don't care about red, yellow. It's just going to be broken anyway. And that leads us to the next stage, which is to attach those inner edge pairs that we spent so long making to my outer edges. Now this also is a very long phase, and what we want to do is look for any inner edge in the center here that is pointing upwards towards a correct outer edge. So that red is kind of going up the hill, pointing towards that red. That is going to go into here. And what I do is I firstly turn this whole slice off 180 degrees. I then bring my red outer edge across to the middle, just next to the center. I then bring the piece that I want to place back and return my red outer edge. And that has been placed. That is exactly what I'm trying to do until all of my outer edge pieces, not that one, all of these, wherever they are, have the correct inner edge next to them. Now, obviously I'm not going to do the whole lot, but I will go through a couple of techniques here and just point out one other thing now. So I've got a green piece here that's correctly pointing upwards towards that green piece. So that's ready to go. When I turn this in, on the back, the corresponding piece at the back also moves. So what I need to do is first just check that that back piece on the lower layer is not already done. And it's not. So that's totally fine to use. So I'll just have a quick check. Yep, that's good. Turn the slice. Bring the outer edge to the center. Return the slice. Return the outer edge. Done. Now, I'm not so much trying to place these things as I am trying to get these things correctly dealt with, because there will be some of these left over at the end. And you might think, why? Well, they've got to go into whatever these are. So I could have created any outer edge at the beginning. I created blue, orange, and I created white, red. So that means there'll be a blue, an orange, a white, and a red set of these left over once all of the outer edges are done. So what if we can't find something that we're looking for? Well, here's a yellow piece that's pointing up to there. So I check the back and notice that that yellow outer edge, if I turn it like that, will now be correctly set up. So I check the back upper because this is on the upper layer. The back upper is fine. It hasn't been done, so I'm good to go. That one's done. So the actual move is not difficult at all. Let's see a couple more and yep. So I've got a green here and a green here. I'd like to get this one matching here. So one thing I can do is just turn this green to the back temporarily, rotate the front face, which puts the green inner edge in that bottom position. And then when I return it, it's correctly set up. So this is on the lower layer. I go check the lower, that's fine. So I'm ready to go. There we go. Okay, what else can I see that is a little bit of a technique? Yeah, okay, let's do this. All right, so I've got a yellow. I'd like to get a yellow piece to here. I noticed there's one sitting right there. If I could get that across to here, that would be pretty good. So again, one thing I can do is turn this to the back and store it. And what happens is this is on the upper layer. When I turn it to the back, it actually goes to the lower layer. You see there it is down there on the bottom layer. Now I can turn that top layer across. And when I bring that back, that is now ready and set up. So this is on the top. I'll check the top. Hey, the top's done. That's no good. So I want to replace that, and I might as well replace it with this thing. That's the easiest thing to do there. Okay, so that's essentially what we're doing until all of these are done. Now, what I would generally try and do, eventually you'll get to the point where this yellow will be done and that green will be done. And that'll be sort of one half of a big edge. And you can match it. You can just turn it and match it with another half. And then once you've got a whole big edge done, you will then replace that with one of these pieces up here. Alternatively, you can just say something like the following. You can say, look, I've got a blue piece here and I can see that there's a blue outer edge here. So if I simply turn it down, that's going to match. Now, the middle layer is turning at the moment, so I can't just turn it down because these will not work. So what I need to do instead is turn it down with a down, down, up, up. Like that. Then it'll still turn. That blue piece is ready. Nothing is done on the back. And you'll get into a pretty quick rhythm once you get going. And I'm going to get into a pretty quick rhythm here, and I will come back in when I'm down to the last few. And here I am down to the last two. And what you're kind of hoping for is that the last two will be on the same line, as it were. So if I look at this white one here, it's set up to go in there. I'm trying to find a corresponding piece on the back that will go there. But the only other piece is this one. And there's no way that piece can get over to here. It can go there, but it cannot go to there. So it's like it's on a different orbit. I hesitate to use that word, but hopefully you get the idea of what I mean. So I've got to treat this white piece with its white outer edge separately to this yellow piece with its yellow outer edge. I do them one at a time. So you could get down to this sort of thing. You could actually get them all done except just one left, like this. So either way, this is how you need to do it. The first thing is, if this is white and that's white, you've got to get another white piece completely done in the corresponding position on the back. So this has got to be the lower part on the back here. So I just find any white piece from anywhere that can go there. So there's one of these will do the job. So I'll turn that up and do the 4 turns to keep the middle layer turning. So now I've got that white, and this white as well. And just to, I suppose just to be really clear, I might just turn that around just so it's clear that's the white that I'm talking about. Okay, now what I do, I've got one white piece and I've got one white outer edge. I need to create a second white piece with a second outer edge. So instead of turning this off, don't like that, that's even more confusing with that white piece. Instead of turning this off like I normally would, I'm going to pretend that I've already turned it off, bring that white outer edge to the center, rotate, and return. Now what you'll notice is that a new white piece has appeared here, and on the back there is a new white outer edge. So I've now effectively created 2 white pieces and outer edges on the same orbit. So this is my other one. Now clearly that white one's got to be turned around, so let's just move that off, rotate the face, and put it back. Oh, had a little bit of a pop there. I wasn't turning very well, so just pop that back in. That is now the second piece ready to match with this. So now that I've got the 2 pieces, I can happily do the ordinary move that I would do. And that final white piece is in. So we've seen how that's done. What we're going to do now is do exactly the same thing for the last yellow piece. Here's the last yellow piece with that yellow spot. I need to put another yellow piece in this upper position. So let's perhaps use these 2 here, like so. And again, I don't want to turn this off. I want to push it out as if I have turned it off. And that creates the second piece. So I'll put that to the back, rotate, and now my yellow second piece is ready to go in the yellow second slot. And now I can carry it out. And that method will just enable you to get the very last of your pieces done. So that is now all of the inner edges attached to the outer edges. Well, the next stage of the solve is to solve the wings. It's to put little wings next to the inner edges. And this is probably the only, it's not the only recognized algorithm for this particular solve, because this is potentially going to have some other stuff later with the Master Mixup solve. So I won't make that claim, but I'll say it's a very simple algorithm. And it's going to involve 2 wings at the front here, the lower left and the lower right, and a third wing at the back. And that third wing at the back is the one that belongs in that position if I turn it. So where does that blue wing go? To the upper position at the back. So what I will do is just start with this blue one here. And if that's a blue raised wing, I would like to get a blue base sitting here, blue inner edge sitting here somehow, even if it's not a raised wing, I suppose. But in terms of what these pieces do, the pieces on the front will change their orientation. The piece at the back will not. So the movement is that this blue piece goes across to here. It is raised, so it will flatten when it gets to here. This white piece will go to the back. It is currently raised, and so it will flatten when it lands here. This flat white piece at the back will stay flat. So that's how I tell what sort of pieces I'm trying to place. So I begin with this blue raised and I say I'd like to get a blue base in that position. So let's just turn these to the back for a minute. Yes, there's a nice blue base there. So that blue raised piece will go over to here and flatten. I then would look at this piece, and if it's raised, that's a yellow raised piece, I'd say, hey, it'd be nice to put a yellow base in that position. Let's see if I can put a yellow base there. Well, there is a yellow base here, and I can get it to the correct position just with a couple of simple turns. There it is. There's a yellow base. Now, also, the piece that is here, that is going to go here, will keep its orientation. So I could also look for a white flat piece and put it at the back. Now, if you ponder what's going on, I want a yellow raised piece to go into a yellow base, yellow inner edge, and I'd like a white flat piece to come here. So really what I'm looking for is a white flat piece in a yellow base. Now I do see one here, but it's on this same edge, so I can't use it anyway, even if it was the correct one. But I'll just see, is there any other examples of white flat pieces in a yellow base? Not that I can see, but if there was, that is what I would put there because it'd get all three of these pieces done. So at the moment, the blue's going to solve, the yellow will solve, and this orange will not solve. So 2 out of 3, that's what I'm aiming for pretty much every time. And what I'm going to use is the corner piece series for cuboids, but I'm going to turn the upper face as an upper slice. If you think about, say, a 3x3x4 cuboid, when you try and do the corner piece series on it, you can't make 90-degree turns on your left and right face and still turn the upper face. You need to make 180-degree turns, and that's what I want to do here. So I want to turn the upper slice up plus, right 2, up minus, left 2, up plus, and I'll return my right 2, which happens to be another right 2, up minus, and I'll return my left 2. And you'll see that that blue piece has gone across to here. The yellow piece that was here has gone and flattened here, and that raised orange piece has come here. Now I would generally just continue working through, so I'd go, well, there's a raised orange. I'd like to put an orange base here. There's one. That's nice. So I can just turn that down like so. And it is important to remember I do have these yellow and white centers, so I still want to keep this middle layer turnable. An orange raised piece will go to here. Now this is a yellow flat piece, so I'm not going to be trying to place that at the back. Instead, what I'll try and find is a white flat piece that I can put at the back, if there is one that goes there. And there may not be. There is a white flat piece there. Let's just turn that around. Is that the correct one? Yes, it is. That will go to that position. So I can just turn that around to there. And I now have the orange piece that will solve, and this white flat piece will come up here and solve. Now, can I turn it, or have I accidentally put, I've put an edge like this in. So let's just replace that with something else. Oh, I've probably also turned that because I didn't put the white piece in with the full 4 moves. Okay, let me just fix that. Right, the world is again spinning on its axis. So we've now got everything set up. Let's carry out the algorithm. And you can see the white flat piece came to here, the orange raised came to there, and that yellow, I think it was a yellow flat piece, is gone down to here, and it's raised in a yellow base. Now you can work around anywhere, you don't have to stick to a face as long as you're doing it on the middle layer. Not much more to it than that until we get to the end, but let's have a look at this one. I've got a yellow raised base. I'd like to place a yellow base in that. Sorry, I've got a yellow raised piece, wing, that I'd like to place in a yellow base. So that there looks pretty good. It's in position. That is a flat piece, so it's not going to place. So what I'm looking for now is a yellow flat piece that can go into this back position. Well, that one should turn perfectly where I want it. There we go. Again, 2 out of 3. I'm happy with that. And there we go. Those 2 are done. The one at the back's not, but I would just keep going. Look for a next one. I could turn it around like this, go for the white, whatever I like. There's a few of these to do. I will continue working my way through them and come back in with the last few. All right, well here we've got a couple of wings left. I've got that green raise that's got to go in there, and I see a yellow raised wing sitting here. So I'll see if there is a yellow flat or yellow base. There is a yellow base, and that is exactly where I want it. So that's fine. I'll get these done first. And what does that leave me? A green flat in a blue base, a blue flat in a green base, a green raised in a green base, and another green raised in a green base. Okay, so going to see if we can use these. First of all, let's start by putting this green raised piece onto the middle layer. So that is sitting there ready. Now, next, because it's a green raised, I'd like to get another green base here. Now, that is never going to go there. I wonder if the other one is the same. Maybe that will go there. Let's try. No, that is exactly the same as that one. It's just going to move over there. And in fact, it's not even a green base anyway. So that green base is not going to work. The only other option is this one here. So I'll put that into position first of all. Okay, so the green raised will go over to here. I've got this green raised that's got to go somewhere else. So can I put one of these other pieces to the back? Let's see this one first of all. That will go to the back. I can just turn it round. It does have a green flat piece, which is pretty perfect for that. So I'm very happy with that setup. First of all, oh, what have I got? No, that's all fine. Should be no problem turning that. Okay, so that's done. Now, I've got a green flat in a blue base and a blue flat in a green base, and I think that's it. That looks like it's it. Okay, so for this one, what I've got to do is firstly, I'm going to I've got no raised pieces, so all I can do is place a flat one into a flat base, or into a base that it belongs in. So I'm going to try and get this blue flat piece around to the correct position on the back face here, so that it will turn and place there. So then the question is, okay, I'm dealing with blues and greens. I need to put what color over here? Well, pretty much a blue or a green. It doesn't really matter. It'll work out in the end, whatever it is. So I can grab that green there and just place that there for now. Now, the thing is, when this happens, that green will raise to here. So I'm going to have a raised green in a green base. If I didn't want to have the same color in the base, I would put a blue reduced piece here. And at least then the colors would be different. And look, perhaps that's what I should do just to make the point there. I'll put a blue base there. All right. We've got that set up. I think we're ready to go. So this one is just going to place that blue. Now that it's done, you can see what we get. We get a raised blue and a green base, a raised green and a blue base. Now there's only one possible piece that we can put at the back, and it has to have a green base and a flat green piece. In other words, it's got to be green. So here's an easy enough one to put there. And everything will now place correctly for those last few pieces. And we're done. We can look around there and see that all of those wings have now been attached to their inner edges. Now we're nearly at the point of starting to deal with these centers sitting in here, but not quite. What we want to do is firstly make sure that all these pieces that are left are correctly matched. So the whites are, the blues are. I've got some oranges and reds here that need to be, and so all I do is turn one onto the other, push it out, turn the face, and return, and that'll create that one, and it'll create that one. So the centers are now good, and I'm just checking that's fine, but when I turn this red, that's not. So I want to make sure that that face is correctly oriented. So we're all good now. The thing after that is to basically create fully reduced big edges. In other words, at the moment, we've just been working with the top half or the bottom half. I'd now like to get, say, a green, orange, green, orange. I think I might even have one here that's already done. Maybe not. Well, let's do one now. I'm going to use the same sort of techniques as in a 4x4 edge pairing here. So if I can find two in the middle, yep. So I've got yellow blues. Got a blue yellow sitting here and a blue yellow sitting here. So I'm going to bring one to the other, make a pair, and then just replace this with something up the top. Doesn't matter what I replace it with, as long as it is something that is not yet done, like those two, and then return my centers. And that blue-yellow pair is now made. Now what you probably end up doing is trying to be strategic about that third piece. So again, I've got green oranges here. Let's put the green oranges so that they can come around. Now this is a red yellow. So I would just check and see if there's a red yellow that I can use. There's a red yellow up here. So, or down here I should say. So what I'd probably do now is just turn it up so that I've got the red yellow there. And then try and remember which two colours I was looking at. I think it was, in fact, I have no idea. Which two colours was it? Green, white? No. Orange, green. I think it was orange, green. Ah, yes, of course, because it's got the red, yellow. Okay, so what I would do would say, well, here's a yellow, red. I'm going to turn this green, orange around to this one. And I'm going to make sure that I put a yellow red in the bottom layer when I replace this. So here's the yellow red that I wanted. I don't want to turn it down like that because it'll be in the top layer. So instead I want to turn it up, turn it onto that position and turn it down. Now that yellow red is in the bottom layer, and when I turn centers back, I will have made a second one as well. So you can do that. Sometimes it's actually more time and trouble than it's worth, and you're better off just replacing it with anything. So there's not a heap of these to do. I mean, we don't have to do every single one of them. I will continue doing what I've got here if I can. So blue, white, green. There's nothing in the middle layer that's really, I don't have two pieces the same. So what I would do then would be to say, okay, let's put another green yellow piece in that middle layer. And now I can bring those together, replace it with this one and return centers. Do I have two green whites? Nope. Blue white? Yes, two blue whites. I've got something, I've got nothing up the top there, so let's turn it up and we'll use one of these pieces. And near the end you could get down to a situation like this where you've got two colours the same and you don't have a third edge to use. And so what you do here is just basically grab one half of this and push out the same colour of the other half. So that's red green. I want to push out the green red over here, and then I want to flip this big edge. And once I've done that, I put the centers back and those last two have been done. All right, so we have now essentially got this thing to a point where it is behaving as a Master Mixup Ultimate or Master Mixup Zero or Super Mixup, whatever you want to call it. 3 puzzles released that are the exact same thing. And we're now going to solve it as that puzzle. And so the very first thing that I want to do in solving that is check to see whether we have a flipped edge. To do that, I'm going to place the edges. Now, we've got the white and yellow centers, but we do not have all the other centers, but it doesn't matter. The centers here are irrelevant for checking. What we need to do is just place the edges normally and see whether we have a flipped edge. So that's why this is not going to look correct here, neither is this here, but as long as the colors are in the correct order, and I'll explain what I mean by that very soon. Perhaps let's put these whites in. Okay, so I know that red, blue, orange, green is the order these go, and for example, If this is correct, I should find a corner that is white on the top, red on the left, blue on the right. And there we have it, white on the top, red on the left, blue on the right. So once I've got the white face done correctly, I'll go and do 3 middle layer edges. Again, doesn't matter which one, and I'm being guided by the edges, not the centers as I normally would. Okay, so that's 3 correct middle layer edges. It happens to be a 4th one that's unintentional. I want to just get 2 at the back. So let's put this yellow orange in first. That's supposed to be yellow blue, which is sitting over here. So I'll bring it to the middle layer first and then place it into that position. And it'll leave some kind of something. And in this case, pretty rare, it's solved the last 3 perfectly. So on this particular solve, I do not have a single flipped edge. However, being that I want to show exactly what to do if we get it, I'm going to set up for that now. Okay, here we are, and we've got all the edges solved, except for this final edge here, this yellow-red edge. It's behaving as a big edge. It is a single flipped edge. Everything else is correctly in place. So this is certainly possible on the Mixup Ultimate, and it is of course therefore possible on this one as well. So the fix that we want to do here is basically to flip another edge. Now we could flip this edge, this particular one, doesn't matter. The reason that I'm going to flip this one with these centers in it is because one of the things that we need to do after we've done the fix is what will happen is this red-yellow, for example, will simply switch to yellow-red, but it'll just be the outer edge portion. These bits will remain, and that means if I use this, I've got to also deal with the red and the yellow in here. However, if I use one of these ones, I haven't done the centers yet, I'm not interested in them, so I couldn't care less. They can just stay where they are. It's only the wings that I would need to fix. So I will use one of these, either that one or this one, doesn't matter which one. Let's use this one here. And here's what I'm going to do. It's the same thing that I would do on the Mixup Ultimate Cube. Going to do a corner piece series for cuboids first of all. It's the exact same routine as for placing the wings, except that I'm using both layers for my upper turn. So the up plus is both layers. Then of course the right 2 and the up minus and the left 2, and then repeat. Now, the piece that was in here was the orange blue. At the moment, that's at the back, and it's still the same orientation. So what I worked out to do was I said I need to get it over here and then bring it back in the other orientation. So I turned the back face to there. Now what I'm going to do is a mirror corner piece series for cuboids, and so that piece will come down and place there. Before I put that piece into position, I want to put its position across to the wing. So I then do an up plus and finally do another back anti-clockwise. So this is now ready to go and place in this position, but it'll be flipped. So now I carry out a corner piece series for cuboids, but I begin with a U minus instead of a U plus, and I then do a left 2 instead of a right 2. And you can see there it is, and it is flipped even though these centers make it difficult. You might remember right at the beginning of the solve I actually put the opposite 2 centers into here, but you can tell it's flipped because the orange and blue wings are wrong now. Now we had 3 setup moves between those 2 things, so let's undo them. The first one was, well, I did back minus, U plus, back anti-clockwise, so let's do the back turn, then the U minus, and then a final back turn. You can see now the other edges have remained where they are. This was the one that was flipped. I've now created a second flipped edge here. Now, what it's done, firstly, you can see that these bits in here have not been flipped, and so I've got to fix the orange and the blue wings there. But also, it has, if you like, flipped this wing pair at the back. That pair of red wings there used to be flat. Now it's not. So there's two separate things that I've got to deal with here. I'm going to deal with the swap of these two first. It's not actually going to be a swap, it's going to be a 3-cycle using pieces of the same color. So I'll begin by saying, let's fill this with an orange pair of wings. And I'm going to use nearly the same corner piece series as I've been using before. It's a slight difference. But what I want to do is place on this face here an orange pair of wings. So it doesn't matter where I get them from. I just want them in that position. So there's one here. I'll move them up into position. So I'm going to have the orange pair of wings these are flat, these are going to come up to here and be flat. And instead of this being on the front face, as it has been in the past, it's going to be on the up face. So the three pieces that are going to be involved are this piece, and this piece. So at the moment, I'm not that fussed as to what other color goes here, but it should be blue or orange because that's what I'm dealing with. So blue's fine. So I'm going to hold the puzzle like this, and the algorithm that I'm going to use is going to be U plus followed by an R. So this is an ordinary corner piece series, but using this middle slice as my upper layer. So the next turn is a left prime. That is it. Now, what we'll see is nothing here has been touched. The orange pair of wings that was here has now landed here. Now I've created this raised pair of blues in here because I had to do one of these two first of all, and I've got a raised pair of blues here. So I've got 1, 2, 3 things now to deal with. So the first thing that I'll do is put this here, and I want to put this piece with the flat orange in this face on the back. So what I could do, in fact, is just to store this up here for the time being and put that one to the upper face and then turn this around. Okay, so what I've got is now, if you consider the corner piece series and what we did for the wings, I've got, in fact, it's this one here that needs to be in that position. My apologies, let me just flip that over. And that is as simple as what we would normally do for flipping. Okay, that is much better. All right, because the orange flat pair is clearly the one that needs to go here. So let's consider the piece movement is the same. So I'm going to have this flat orange pair go here and solve. This blue raised pair will flatten across to there and solve, and this blue raised pair will flatten here and solve. So it's two lots of these moves. Again, this is on the back, these two are on the up face, and we carry out the corner piece series, but we do it with this as our upturn. Okay, you can see that that's dealt with, and now this edge that I flipped has the correct wings. It happens to have the correct centers, but again, they're irrelevant. They could have been any centers we placed there at the beginning. So that's the first part of the mop up, or the clean up after flipping the edge. The other part, you'll remember, there was this little pair of red raised wings that was created. And so I need to deal with that now. So what I'm going to do is remember that this is my white and yellow, so this is my middle layer. First of all, I'm just going to make sure that all the faces are correctly oriented so I don't destroy bits that I've created. That's fine. I'm then going to get this out of there. Okay, I've now got a turnable middle layer. Now I'm going to find that piece with the red raised. Oh, there it is, sitting right here hiding. Okay, so what I want to do now is consider what would I do if I had the same situation when I was placing the wings, because that is exactly what I have here. Well, I would say this red raised wing needs to go to this base, and that base needs to come over here, and then at the back I would have another red piece. So before I begin, I'm going to put a red completely reduced piece in that position. Like so. And now, in fact, will that come undone? Because what I need to do is turn this around. Actually put it, this will make so much more sense, like that, because I'm going to turn this top one around to the back and then bring it over to here. And as I turn the top around, this red piece will actually go into the correct position. So there's that top one that I've turned around to the back. I'm now bringing it to the front, and I have the three pieces set up exactly where I need them to be. I still have a turnable middle layer. So the red raised will go to here, this red raised will go to the back, and the flat red piece will come here and solve there. So that will deal with these red pieces. This time, of course, it's just placing individual wings, so it's back to the U plus being the top slice, and a right 2, U minus, and a left 2. And repeat. Now, I did have a couple of setups there, so I want to undo them. The last one was that. The first one was that. And the reason I do that is to put all of the reduced edges back together, so I don't have to do that later on. So that has completely dealt with that single flipped edge. Now you don't have to resolve the edges to check, and I'm not going to. You can if you want, just to be sure, but you will not have a single flipped edge after that. Well, the next thing we're going to do is to finally solve these inner edges, get rid of these centers that are sitting in here, and get rid of these inner edges that are in the center position. So the way I'm going to do this is basically I want to have one of these edges, inner edge pairs, in the center position, pointing towards where it belongs. It belongs inside this, and it's got to point upwards like that in order to place there. The other piece that's involved is this piece here. I don't really care what's going on with that one at the moment. I just care that this and this are the correct pieces. Now, once again, I'm going to use a variation on the corner piece series. It's a subtle variation this time, and it is, again, a normal corner piece series with this as the upturn. You might say, how many differences can we have? What can we do now? Well, have a look. I've told you these three pieces here are the ones that are involved. What we're going to do is an up plus, then a right, then an up minus, and for my left turn, I'm going to turn just the slice, as in the left slice. That is my left turn. I'll continue. Now what's crucial there is that you may remember that white center was back there. The blue inner edge was here. It has gone and flattened into there, and the blue center that was here has gone to there. That's just those three pieces have moved. Pretty simple, and I just want to keep going with that. So there's a red here, so I'll position it so that that red is going to go across to there. Don't care what's happening here. Hold the puzzle as such. And again, U plus, then a right turn, U minus, and then a left slice. And that one's done. Now I've got a white one to do. Well, the white one goes there. I could do the orange one if I wanted, but I might as well just deal with this white one first. So I set things up so that that's ready. And that leaves us just the orange. There'll be one gap over here. So that is set up, and we do the final placement of the inner edge. No, we don't. We align everything first. Is that aligned? I think it's good. Let's go again. And we have all the inner edges now placed into position. And for the first time since the puzzle was solved, we now have centers in center position. Now the next stage of the solve is to solve the centers. You might say, well, I already had the white and yellow, but suddenly they're gone. That's right, they were sort of moved around as we did those inner edges. And so what I want to do now is just get the centers into the correct position. The really nice thing is I'm going to use precisely the same algorithm that I just used for the inner edges. So what I would do first is just see if they are in correct 3-cycle or not. So as an example, I would say, look, if this is white and that's red, I know that blue belongs here. So if I was to swap the blue and the yellow, that's one swap. That would put blue in the correct position and yellow in the correct position. Now what's happening over here? So it's going red, blue, green, orange. Okay, they need to swap as well in order to get the correct centers. So therefore I have 2 swaps, and that is going to make a 3-cycle. That's fine. If I had a single swap or I had an odd number of swaps, what I would need to do is something like, say, well, this is going to be white, this is going to be red. I'm going to turn that slice 1 turn and resolve the red to that position. But in this case, I don't have that. So what I need to do is think, okay, these are fixed. Let's firstly get the yellow into position down here. So if you remember the sequence that we did, I had a piece on the back center, which came to this up center here. That yellow is going to do that. There was also a piece sitting there. And so I want to find one of my other 2 centers and put it into that position. So probably the easiest one is the green. And so what I'll do is just move the blue center out of the way temporarily, put the green center into its position, and then return the blue center. You see the yellow is still where it should be. Remember that the cycle only touches these 3 pieces. So I've got the yellow going to there. That's really what I want at the moment. So they're in position. I said it was precisely the same sequence. It is. And it's done. And now I want to undo those setup moves that I did. So the first one is that. I've then got to turn this back onto the edge and then undo there. Now that yellow is now in position. So if we check the centers, white, red, yellow, that's good. This should be blue. This should be orange. This should be green. So in other words, orange has got to go there. Blue's got to go there. So now I've got my direction. Okay, orange is going to blue. I need to get the green to be in that position before I start. So this is a slightly different setup. I'm going to turn the green across to the side, and I'm then going to turn, what that's done by the way is knock that blue out. I've got to keep that in mind. I'm going to turn the green up to its position, and then because I said blue, it was really orange, it knocked the orange center out. I now turn this slice back so that the 3 centers are where I need them. So as I said, a little bit of a different setup, but now the sequence is the same. A little bit more fiddly because the pieces are sticking out everywhere, but that's done. Let's now go ahead and undo those setups. So I did have to do that, and then I brought this one down and then put it there. Now what we'll find now is that white, red, blue looks good, orange, green looks good, and the yellow on the bottom. So those centers are now solved. The next stage is to solve the edges. So this is just what we were doing when we were checking for a single flipped edge. The difference is now, that was a bit silly, I've got centers to guide me. So that must go in that position. The white, orange must go in its position. Which one's the green? I think it's that one. That looks good. Just the white blue remaining. So that's good. Now we'll solve 3 middle layer edges. And because I fixed the flipped single edge earlier, I'm not going to encounter that. Red green, that's going to drop down here. And that'll leave this 4th middle layer edge. I'm going to go solve these 2. Okay, so that's got to be yellow blue, that's got to be yellow red. So let's turn that around. Bring the yellow red down into the middle layer and then put it into its position over here. And we'll now see what's going on with these ones. Okay, so on this occasion, I've got 2 edges in position, both of them flipped. That's very different from a single flipped edge. Of course, on a normal Rubik's Cube, you can't get a single flipped edge. Okay, so to deal with these, I'll just use these 2 and that one there, take them out of 3 cycle, or take them out of their flipped position, and then go ahead and solve them correctly. So I would just look and see, okay, this is the one that's coming down to its position flipped, so it needs to have its position turned up and then put it onto its position. Undo, undo. Okay, those edges are now all solved. Well, the maybe final stage of the solve is to do the corners. Now, obviously in this video, it's not going to be because I'm going to ensure that I get the swap of 2 corners. So for the solving of the corners, I'm going to just use the corner piece series, the very ordinary, the one that started it all off, and just look for a corner that needs to roll along an edge, along the back or the side or something like that. Here I've got the yellow, orange, green that's going to roll across to there. So these 3 pieces will be involved, and it is simply up turn, right turn, up prime, left prime, up, right prime, up prime, left. Boom. You can see why I love it so much, because it is so incredibly versatile for other things on puzzles. Okay, I'm just going to move this yellow, orange, blue back to that position so I can get it into there. This will be the mirror of that corner piece series. And I'll go relatively quickly through here because this is not the main part of the solve. White, orange, blue, yellow, green, red. Just looking for something. If I can't find something that rolls, I will normally try and find something that goes across a diagonal. And that is not always possible. Let's have a look at this yellow, red, green and see if I can get it, do a setup to there. And in fact, I'll do 2 setups and now that is ready to roll across to there. White, blue, red, no. White, orange, green. That's not going to work because its color is the same. White, green, red. That'll work nicely. I might be in a position to tell if I've got 2 swapped corners. Oh, of course, I don't think I have on the one that I actually want. Anyway, let's just get one more solved so it's really clear. Yellow, blue, red. It's got to go to there. Yep, I'll just solve that one. Okay, that's in position, that's in position, and that's in position. So I'm not going to go ahead and finish these now because it's very clear that I do not have 2 swapped corners. As I said, I do want to set up for that, and I'm going to do so now. And here we go. We've got the orange, white, blue that belongs over here and the orange, green, yellow that belongs here. So very clearly 2 swapped corners. Now, what I'm going to use here is exactly the same as what I used on the solve of the Mixup Ultimate. And it's a wonderful little sequence. And if you want to learn more about that and how I came across it, go and have a look at that video. So what we're going to do is to go with the two swapped corners, we're going to create two swapped edges. And I could use any two, but I'm going to use two yellow ones. And it's going to swap the one at back right and the one at up right. So if I hold the puzzle like this, these two will be the ones that will swap. And then it'll be fine. I'll be able to solve the puzzle from there. So what we're going to do is do 3 setup moves first. And we're going to do an F minus, an F slice minus. In other words, an anti-clockwise 30-degree turn. Well, a front face turn clockwise is like that. So an anti-clockwise is like that. So that means my F minus is that turn there. Then I'm going to do a U minus and a U minus. So an up anti-clockwise is around like that. So the U minus is like so, and then the other U minus is also like so. They are my 3 setups, and I'm now going to carry out another corner piece series variation. There's apparently endless ones of them, and here's what it is. It's going to be an ordinary corner piece series where I just do a right turn and a left turn, not 180 degrees. But when I do my left turn, I'm going to be turning both slice and left layer. So here we go. I'm going to do an up slice, then my right turn, and an up minus on the slice. And now instead of just the left face or just the left slice, I'm going to do, so I get that aligned, both. And I continue a U plus, and then a right, and a U minus, and then return both lefts. Now, I'm going to undo one of those U minuses that I did at the start. Remember, I did 2 U minus turns. I'm going to undo one of them now. And then I'm going to repeat that exact same sequence. So the same corner piece series that I just did. And we're done. Now, what have I not done yet? I've undone one of those U minuses. I need to undo the other U minus. And then there was an F minus at the start. So I'll undo that with an F plus. You'll notice that nothing has been touched except that these two edges have been swapped. As I said, a bit of a magnificent sequence there. Let's now go ahead and say, well, I've got 2 swapped edges. What I would normally do is turn the yellow face 1 turn and then resolve the yellow blue and resolve the yellow red. There's the yellow blue done. There's the yellow red done. And the other 3 are now back in position. And now I can go ahead and continue solving these corners. That one's going to roll. That will roll across to there. Yellow, blue, red. And you can see now that I've got 1, 2, 3 corners left to do. Now, this is kind of tricky because they are all in sort of opposite diagonal positions. So I'm just going to set this up here for a minute and see. Yeah, so with the corner piece series, I'm going to do a setup like that. This yellow, blue, red is going to roll to that position. This white, blue, orange is going to go across the diagonal to here, and the white sticker that's on the side will go to the top. That means my third piece will be in the white face, and whatever sticker is in that white face needs to land here. So I'll do that as a setup as well. And now I've got those 3 that I can cycle. And I'll now undo those setups. It was one of them, it was the other, and all of those corners have now been placed. And so that is the Master Mixup version 2. It's been solved. I think you'll agree it is a completely different kind of solve to the version 1. I said at the start it was a monster of a solve. I really do enjoy it. It is a long one though. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, thanks for watching.